Welcome back to Exchange Server 2016. In this module, we're going to talk about managing Exchange servers. So once you've deployed your Exchange servers and you've done all your post-installation tasks, then you want to manage your Exchange servers and you want to create users, create databases, and so on. So this module will cover the two ways that you can manage Exchange servers. The first thing that you can do is you can manage your Exchange server and client settings inside of the Exchange Admin Center, which is in the web browser. And another way is in PowerShell. Exchange actually extends Windows PowerShell, and it then calls it Exchange Management Shell, but it's really just PowerShell. So in this module, we're going to show you PowerShell, and we're going to go through a few examples and so on. But first, let's talk about the easy way of managing Exchange, and that is the Exchange Admin Center. So the Exchange Admin Center is the way that you would, once you've installed Exchange, go into your Exchange server and open up a web browser, go to the local server /ECP. That comes from the Exchange control panel days in Exchange 2007 and Exchange 2010. And so we kept the same URL, and allows you to then use your web browser, which means that you can do it from any machine in your organization.
It's a lot better than the days of Exchange Management Console. Being a web browser, or web-based rather, wow, the performance is really fast. And no more waiting at 66%, waiting for the console to appear. Or to be ready. Well, it's really neat, the one that's in 2016, and I think in 2013 as well, the Exchange Admin Center lets you not only manage your on-premises environment, but if you do happen to have, if you're in a hybrid coexistence scenario and have a tenant in Exchange Online, it also allows you to manage a lot of the tenant settings as well, or at the very least, your migrations and moves from on-premises to Exchange Online, or either way, back and forth.
Yeah, so the Exchange Admin Center is basically easy, and what you need to have is you need to have a web browser, and we support Internet Explorer, we support Firefox.
Internet Explorer 10 and later, Edge, the new Edge browser, it's called Edge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the latest versions of Google Chrome and Firefox and Safari.
Okay. So it needs to be a fairly up-to-date browser, because we use functionality in that web browser, like you know, being able to right-click on certain elements and so on. So you can't use Netscape Navigator. You know, that's not going to.
What?
So you need to have a up-to-date web browser, and people can also manage their own settings inside of that same sort of concept, where they for example, you can allow your users to update telephone numbers.
They're user settings, individual user settings.
A user can
through Outlook on the web.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the same interface. You know, they go to the same website and they manage their own settings inside of Outlook on the web, and freeing your help desk from doing those mundane things like, you know, I just got married. Can you change my last name in the gal? You know, I'm still on honeymoon and I'm phoning the help desk. I want my surname changed. Now they can, if you want to, you don't have to, you know, if you want to maintain control, but you can allow and delegate some of those tasks, like self-management of users, where they add themselves to groups, or they change their own telephone numbers, or they change their surname, or things like that, if you want to.
You also, it being web-based, it's very easy to manage Exchange from either internally inside the network, or across, you know, over the internet, if you wanted to. And of course, if you wanted to prevent access from across the internet to the EAC, then you simply configure the ECP virtual directory to not allow it.
Yeah.
You want to take a look at the console?
Yeah. No, I think that enough talking. Let's do some showing.
Let's look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm signed in, Martin, as an Exchange admin. This is the web-based Exchange Admin Center, where all things Exchange are configured, created, managed. So if you notice in the left-hand column or side of the screen, you have your various nodes, and right now I have the recipients node selected. And across the top of the middle, you'll see the various tabs. So in the recipients node, I can manage mailboxes. We'll take a look at in the next module, I think it is, what types of mailboxes we can manage within here. Groups, you can manage resources, contacts, shared mailboxes, and the migration tab allows you to perform migrations and move mailboxes, whether it's internally from one database to another or to online.
Okay.
The permissions node, this allows you to manage your admin roles, the built-in admin roles, and custom roles if you want to create custom roles, the user roles, and your Outlook web app policies.
Okay.
Okay. So, interesting note. We talk about this in the edX course for client access services, but as you mentioned briefly a while ago, Outlook Web Access became Outlook Web App and is now called Outlook on the Web. But you'll notice in the UI that we still refer to it as Outlook Web App.
Yeah. So there's a mental note that people have to make, that every time we talk about OA or we talk about Outlook on the Web or Outlook Web App, all of those things are actually the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just that they evolve the name and try and make it more hip and so on. So
it's hard to come up with an abbreviation for it, though. I like the old OA. You just said OA and you were done, or OWA.
Yes. Yeah.
Moving along, the compliance management node in the Exchange Admin Center. This is where you can manage your compliance officer can manage the settings for in-place e-discovery and hold, auditing, data loss prevention, retention policies, retention tags, and journaling rules.
Okay.
In your organization node, this is where you configure things like sharing. So if you need to create a federation trust between yourself and another Exchange organization, partner, for instance, or again with Exchange Online. This is also where you can, add-ins alone doesn't really describe what this means, but this is where you can manage or even add more Outlook add-ins that you can access, your users can access in Outlook on the Web.
Okay.
And then this is also where you manage your address lists.
Nice.
The Protection Center, you mentioned briefly that your anti-spam agents were no longer managed in the console. Also, all you see here in the Protection node is your malware filter, or anti-malware. Malware. The mail flow node is where you set up your transport rules, delivery reports, configure your accepted domains, email address policies, and receive and send connectors.
Okay.
The mobility, or mobile rather, node, this is where you manage your mobile device access through device access rules. Your allow, block, and quarantine devices. This is all done here. And then your mobile device mailbox policies is where you manage those policies for your users.
Okay.
Under mobile, you have public folders. This is actually something new. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the past, and I forget if it was just 2010 or even 2013, public folders were only managed in the shell.
Yeah.
And so now, was it 2010 or 2010 and 2013?
In 2013, there was public folder management functionality like that, but obviously in 2010, it was based on the public folder databases,
Yes.
which you couldn't manage inside of the admin center.
Okay, right. So after 2013, we added the UI
Yeah.
capability. And like you mentioned, that's a good point. Public folders are no longer the old technology where you have public folder databases. The public folder hierarchy is actually in a public folder mailbox.
Yep.
And it's really treated like a mailbox.
Yep. So very different from 2010.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm running out of real estate here. Let me change the view. So we can see, I know there's a couple more nodes here. I'm going to change this down to 100 there. That's much better. After public folders, we have the unified messaging node. This is where you would manage your unified messaging dial plans or IP gateways. The servers one, this is one of my favorites because there's so much you can do in here. Although this is just for demo purposes, so there's not a whole lot going on. Yeah. But you have the servers tab where you manage your various servers. Then the databases tab, database availability groups, virtual directories, and certificates. Then the hybrid, which is where you would, allows you to connect to your Exchange Online tenant and run setup. And tools. So that's just a brief overview of Exchange Admin Center, and as we go through the course, and we'll be taking a look at it a little bit closer when we go through managing different recipient objects and things like that.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that people be very familiar with what is available in the Exchange Admin Center. Because if you want to quickly change a user setting, or if you want to quickly create a database, or if you just want to do something and see the configuration, then you would go to the Exchange Admin Center, and you need to be aware of all the settings that's available in the Exchange Admin Center that you can use. But another thing that you could do is you can use Windows PowerShell. Windows PowerShell is excuse the pun, very powerful.
Oh, that was bad.
A powerful way to manage Exchange servers. And it's actually important to note that even if you do anything in the Exchange Admin Center, those operations are converted to PowerShell commands in the background and executed as PowerShell commandlets on the Exchange server. So everything is basically PowerShell commands that you execute to manage your Exchange server. So if you want to get fancy, or if you want to get really good with managing Exchange servers, then I would recommend that you do use PowerShell to manage your Exchange servers.
And there's so much more you can do with PowerShell that you can, sometimes the UI just doesn't expose a lot of the settings and attributes that you can manage using Exchange Management Shell.
Yes, so PowerShell helps you to document some things, like for example, if you're going to set up Exchange server for the first time and you want to do the same thing over and over again, then you can type that out as a list of commands. We call that a script. So, and then you save that, and then you can take that script and run it again on every Exchange server that you install, so that you know that this server is an exact copy of the previous server. So this server is going to be configured to have databases set up like this. It's going to have certain settings in terms of SMTP send and SMTP receive connectors and so on. Or you may want to assign the product key to the Exchange server, so that could be part of that initial setup script. Or you may want to set up the virtual directories, and you want to do all of those things exactly the same way every time. So then you can create a deployment script. Or if you're going to do a migration, you can create a migration script that contains all the mailboxes that you're going to move. So PowerShell allows you to do those kind of things. Exchange also, when it extends the PowerShell, it creates a new icon on that desktop, on your desktop, on the server desktop, called Exchange Management Shell. And that gives you all the functionality that Exchange does. So it connects to remote PowerShell on the Exchange server. So the commandlets are actually executed inside of IIS on that server. So when you run a commandlet, it sends that commandlet to the server. The server verifies that you are allowed to run that commandlet, and then it executes that on the server, and it gives you the results back. So it gives you that experience of you issuing commands to the server and you're waiting for the responses to come back. So let's look at a couple of examples of PowerShell. And I just want to highlight a few things that is possible to run when we do Exchange servers. So I'm just going to log on quickly and log on to my virtual machine as well. So here I have the Exchange Management Shell, and you'll notice that it's got its own icon with the PowerShell icon on this desktop here at the bottom of the taskbar. I still have the normal Windows PowerShell on my machine, and it's in fact possible to connect to this PowerShell and then tell this PowerShell by setting up a new remote PowerShell session to sort of make this default PowerShell commandlet your Windows PowerShell interface for managing Exchange. But you know, that would be hard work, so you just run the one that comes with Exchange, and that automatically connects to the Exchange server. So you see here that it connected to my Exchange server, and now I can run PowerShell commandlets to manage my Exchange servers. The secret about PowerShell is all commandlets that you run have a verb and a object format. So you see example here of get-mailbox. So I'm getting all the mailboxes. So anything that you want to do on your Exchange server, or even Windows, if you want to use PowerShell to manage Windows, is you use the get-something to do an action on that. So get would be getting that information, and set would be setting that information.
In the same token, you have the new, remove, add, the list goes on, yep.
So just like
different actions.
Yes, different actions. Just like reading a language, a verb would be, you know, different things that you can do with a ball. I can kick the ball, I can pick up the ball. So those are the actions that you could do with the ball. And then you do it on an object, that's the ball. So I'm gonna
get ball, get dash ball,
get dash ball, or I'm going to kick the ball, or I'm going to deflate the ball, or something like that. So or I'm going to create a new ball.
and those are called commandlets, right? It's the short version is a commandlet, usually followed by various types of parameters.
Yeah. So I can say, for example, get dash, and say I'm new to PowerShell and I don't know what are all the objects that I can do gets on. I can then press the tab key. So when I press the tab key, it's going to give me a what they call command line completion, where it suggests that the first one is get accepted domain. So it goes in an alphabetical list to suggest some commands that you may want to do. So get accepted domain is one. Or maybe if I know the first part of it, it's maybe get mail or something. I don't know. And then I can just press tab and it will complete that to get dash mailbox. And then
and if you could, in the same token, you continue with clicking tab and it'll show you other options as well.
Yes, so if I press tab again, it's going to say mailbox ordered bypass association, auto reply configuration. There's so many things that starts with mailbox. So let's go back to mailbox. Then the same thing happens for all the switches, the parameters, some people call it parameters. Attributes that you want to query. So if I do get dash mailbox, you can say audit log, sort by, identity. This is where you specify specific user, users with a remote archive, get mailbox that are public folders. This is where I can set up a query, ANR query, get mailbox for mailboxes with archive. So I just keep on pressing the tab button, and then I would find out all the parameters or switches that I can apply to this commandlet to make it a command that I want to run.
And obviously those parameters change depending on the type of commandlet that you have entered.
Yes.
Yeah.
So say I only want to find my administrator mailbox, then I can say get dash mailbox dash identity, and then I can specify the user that I want. So if I then run this, it only returns that user that I specified. So it's almost like a filtering capability. Then the next thing that you can do with PowerShell is you can take this information that it returned to you and do something with it. So you can then what they call pipe this information to another command. So I got this mailbox. Now that I have it, what do I want to do with it? Maybe
Probably want to set it.
I want to set something. I want to change something on that. Or I want to move this mailbox to another location. So to do that, you go and run get-mailbox, and then you use this character that you call a pipe character. Pipe sign.
Yep.
So this is usually above the slash on your keyboard. And then you can do something with it. One of the simplest things that you typically want to do is you want to view information, more information about this user, because right now it only gave me the name, the alias, and the server name of this user, but I want to see more things about this user. And so I can pipe this out to a format list of information.
Or just FL for short.
Yeah, and so there's shortcuts as well that you can use. So I can say format-list, or I can just say FL, which is a alias of format list. And if I do that, then you see that the output of that user is significantly more.
Yeah, a lot more. And the neat trick that I like is when I want to see something in particular, I follow that FL with either the actual parameter that I'm interested in seeing, or parameters which you can separate using a comma. Mm-hmm. Or if it's, say, if I'm unsure of the name of the parameter, but I know it begins with email or that one little string, I can do an asterisk, email asterisk, and anything that begins or ends or includes the string email will be outputted to the screen.
Okay, so let's look at how that looks when we run get mailbox - identity administrator format list asterisk email asterisk. You see there, now it only returned all the attributes that has email as one of the attributes. Right. So I can only look at those values and say, oh, the email address is sntp:/administrator@adatum.com. So this is a really nice way of formatting this information. You can also, instead of format list, which gives it in a list format, there's another option that's format table. Format table gives it in a table format. So now it's in like columns. And maybe that is not a good example because the email addresses can be quite long. But if I use something like name, then everything that's got a name. So this is now a list with columns of all the of those attributes that's got the word name in it. But as we said, maybe we want to change something of this user. So we have set administrator and get mailbox administrator, and now we want to set something on that. So the command to change something is set mailbox in this case. And so set-mailbox, I can again use tab to complete that. It saves a lot of time if I'm typing a lot of commandlets. And then I can set something. And so again, to see what can I set, I can just type in the first switch character, that's that little dash, and then I can go through all the attributes that's available, and there is so many attributes that you can set on a user to change something on that user. And so I have to get something that is, let's say I want to change a custom attribute 6 and just say give that a value of no, let's call it something like edX.org.
There you go.
That's a reminder that people should check out the edX course.
edX course.
So I'm going to change that to that value, and now it's going to set that attribute value for that user specifically to that value on that user in Active Directory. So it's part of that user. So it's actually going to now change that information in Active Directory.
That's cool stuff.
So if I now do something similar where I do a get format table custom, and it might be better to do a list so that I can fit everything in the screen. Anything that starts with custom attribute, and you see here that custom attribute 6 is set to edX.org. So
great.
Yeah. So there's so many things that you can do with PowerShell, and this is just an appetizer of what you can do with PowerShell. So I would really recommend that you use PowerShell if you're going to do a lot of bulk operations, or if you want to get very efficient in managing your Exchange servers.
And we should probably mention, if they want to learn more, there's more in the actual edX course for infrastructure.
There's a lot of examples that they can copy and paste and they can use in their environment, and things that just make your life so much easier, and you can build up a little arsenal of commands that and scripts that you can run every day in your environment. Maybe you want to check if your Exchange servers are healthy, or if you want to check if replication is healthy, or if you want to ensure that everything is still in place the way it should be. So do some sort of configuration dump every day. And if you build up an arsenal to do all of those things, then you create those little PS1 files. That's the script files that's got these commandlet listed in them. And then you run them every day to make sure that your environment is healthy. And, you know, one day you might just use PowerShell to do everything, and you never go to the web browser. You just do PowerShell all the time. And it would become second nature to you to use PowerShell, because you could be so much more efficient in doing these operations every day. But so the last thing that I want to leave with you with the PowerShell demo is I want to sort of show you the door of finding information in PowerShell, and the door is help. So when you want to, when you're stuck in PowerShell and you want to know what's available to you to run, you use the get help command. So if you want to see how can I use set mailbox, then let's look at an example here where I say get help, and then I say set dash mailbox. And this will then give me the help information of set mailbox. And you can see that there's a lot of information here that it tells you about things it can do with the set mailbox. And there's maybe that could be overwhelming to you. So maybe you can just say, just give me the examples. So, and it gives you a few examples of the set mailbox commandlet. So here's an example, for example, that you set a user's password. So really nice information. So the only thing that you need to know is get dash help. And then maybe one more thing that I would add to that is
get dash ex command.
Get dash ex command, which gives you all the Exchange commands that is available on the server, and by the way, that you are authorized to use. So if you're an administrator that was limited, so something was delegated to you, then you will only see the commands that is available to you and not all the commandlets that's available in Exchange. So if you run this command, it gives you all the Exchange commandlets, and you can see there's a lot of them. Let's count them quickly. (1,005) commandlets that is available to administrators. So, and that's going to be difficult to remember all of them, but with get help and get ex command, you'll find them. So that's the door. So remember to use those. So let's then just recap and remind you that the Exchange Admin Center is the web-based console where you manage UI. So those of you that love the UI, that want to do things in a UI fashion, you would use the Exchange Management or the Exchange Admin Center to do that. And Joe showed us, he took us through a tour of the Exchange Admin Center. And you can use various types of up-to-date web browsers to do that. But if you want to do powerful things and things that sometimes is not available in the Admin Center, then you would use the Exchange Management Shell, which extends PowerShell to do Exchange management. And in there, you can build scripts and do bulk operations.
Lets you do a lot more things that you can't do in the UI.
Yeah. So that's Exchange management. Stay tuned for Exchange recipients.